Joel Valenzuela, Peaceful Society Through Martial Arts.
All right, we have a mixed crowd here, so sometimes I like to open with a question, just for the guys out. Who here? Oh, there we go, go! All right. If it's a 5-second fix, we'll do this. If not, might drop. I'll go anyway. There we go. All right. Show of hands. Who supports the state here? Who likes government? Raise your hand, someone. Yeah?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, there we go. Hey.
And I'm a teacher to boot. Ooh, you just moved me out.
Well, there we go. We got that going. Now, how did the state come to be? I'll tell you how. By popular demand. It wasn't, it's our fault. It's easy to think, oh, well, we were all living nice and happy, everything was perfect, and then one day, just a group of people managed to band together and enslave us all, and we were just struggling against that from day one. It was a gradual process, and it became because people started asking services and that they didn't want to provide themselves, or they didn't want to trust the market to provide themselves, and they started resorting to the quick, easy fix of coercion. And one thing led to another and led to another. The state came about through abdication of personal responsibility. And that's where we are now. Now, what do we do from here? How do we just rage against that machine, go fight, use all the cryptography in the world, use violent revolution, heaven forbid, right? Do we just do all that and just get rid of the state and then all of a sudden things are going to be great? What's to stop it from coming back? Maybe we have to become the kind of people that are ready to be free. All right? Now, I'm a martial arts instructor. I'm a third-degree black belt certified instructor of the American Taekwondo Association. I've been doing this about 11 or so years. It was a side gig I did for a while and sort of a hobby, and then it became sort of my main financial thing. It's one of the great things I do is I never want to take a day off work. And once you've done that, you basically have won at life. Now, if I could just, straighten out some other things. But here's the thing. Martial arts have a very subversive history to them. For example, capoeira, Brazilian martial art, came to be, it was a African slave developed martial art. And they would practice this to try to throw off their overlords, but because they were being watched, they disguised it as a dance. They had a lot of acrobatics, they did drums, and they made a whole dance out of it, just so their masters couldn't see and couldn't stop them from training to become free people. And karate came from Okinawa, and it was the same thing. Weapons restrictions all over the place. How can you defend yourselves? So that's why you see a lot of rigid, very strong motions. It's because they were fighting armed and armored opponents with nothing but their bare hands, and they had to because again, the state confiscated their weapons. Also, a lot of nunchucks, right? It was a farm implement. The staff, all those are farm tools, because again, they were disarmed, but they made do anyway. And so, martial arts have a very long, rich history of opposition to the state. And that's one thing that really draws me to that, is it's the ultimate individualist sport. Now, I did actually have some notes this time. And there's reasons, I believe that a free society must be a strong society. And I believe that to create that strong society, martial arts are a very big and important key element of that. Now, the principles and techniques taught to really work wonders for creating a populace that's not ready to be governed, is ready to govern itself. For example, individualism. Who here ever played sports? Most people. Hey, were you on a team? Not a professional team maybe, but they're team sports, they're group efforts, they're group think efforts to a certain degree. you got a team, you got to work together, this and that. Martial arts are extremely individualistic. And so if you're, from a young age learning to perform at an individual level and not sort of support the main team, but it's all about you, that focus allows you to perform better like that later in life. Or if you start later in life, you never got that sort of individual personal growth attention because you're too busy being part of the collective that is public schooling and maybe sports and things like that. And one thing I noticed about this community here, a lot of martial artists here at Porcfest and in the Free State community compared to any other. I wonder why that is. I think there's a correlation. Now, the other thing is strength/health, fitness, etc. Public health care, right? Big bad thing. I believe it is our responsibility to study how to become as strong and healthy as we can and not require structured medical care, because that's just a really easy, quick segue to, oh, someone doesn't have health care and they're too poor, then who can provide, who can we demand force that upon us? And so, you can't, how many activists have been taken out for a while because of health problems? It happens, So, the next thing, self-control and leadership. Now, it's easy, learning how to lead is also learning how not to be led, right? I hate to say it, but most people, they just aren't leaders. And that's not that's just sort of an objective statement, because even in very cantankerous free movements, there's still, people look up to certain people. When certain people do something, the rest of the group tends to follow, even though it's a very free-minded group, but it's a voluntarily chosen thing. They tend to go for leaders. And so we, as members of the future, I'll say, of liberty, we as proponents of liberty, we need to study how to be leaders. We need to study how to be able to convince others, lead by example, etc., because right here in New Hampshire, in Porcfest, right here, we're sort of the elite of the elite. Don't want to blow too much smoke up our asses, but these are the people who are the most hardcore and dedicated to the cause of liberty on planet Earth, maybe, except for maybe a small few who are rotting away in some cell in some third world country because they're a little bit too real for this thing. So I think it's our responsibility to be leaders of the charge of liberty. I think it's our responsibility to do our very best to learn how to influence others in that aspect, and martial arts are very good for that whole leadership structure. The whole, for example, public speaking. Again, please don't judge me and judge my school and my style based on whatever slip-ups I might make here. But the ability to stand in front of a group, make a coherent thought, the ability to issue commands, right? That, again, there's no coercion behind those orders. It's not, hey, you do this or something bad's going to happen. It's just through the strength of your leadership. Also, self-control. And show of hands, who's a veteran here? Here we go. Did you enjoy your time in the military at all? Is there any part of it that you liked?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though, to a lot of people...
Overall. Now I look at it as negative, but there are times where I enjoyed it.
And I've noticed some of the best people in the world are Free State veterans, because there's something about that sort of military training that gives people a certain amount of respect, self-control, and just the way they carry themselves. They tend to be a lot more disciplined, a lot better at controlling themselves, not flying off the handle into crazy, oh, fuck you, man, activism stuff. They tend to be a lot better, more polished, more respectable people because of that sort of training. And yes?
I was just going to say, I think that that's are much more appreciative of liberty, because never realize how much you miss it until it's all been ripped away from you. Like literally your entire every minute of the day is controlled, and then you start to really appreciate it.
Exactly. Well, in addition to that, I just think that learning the self-discipline is just such an important component, and it really creates better people that are able to do a lot of really good things. I know a lot of veterans of the Free State movement around here, and they tend to be really good people. And guess what? What if instead of wasting 4 years of your life or more, or going through all kinds of horrible things, I don't even go into it, what if you could get that kind of benefit without, as an entire net positive? There we go. That's one big reason a lot of people, a lot of parents, for example, choose to put their children in martial arts, is to provide that sort of military training, military style background without any of the any of the risks or the moral questionability, etc., etc. Now, next, self-defense. Hey, isn't that kind of the big primary thing? It's really important to learn how to defend yourself. And who among here, if you hear a bump in the night or someone's walking down the street at you at a bad time of night, feels completely confident that they're going to be okay in almost all cases? Well, we get a couple. Yeah, that should be everyone, you know? Because when you have fear, makes you do some crazy things, and if you can't feel secure in your own home in the middle of the night, then you start wanting to call the cops. You start wanting to call someone to help you out, and you become dependent. And once you become dependent, it's an easy sell for you need this. So, well, I'm scared, I need my own safety. I don't like the idea of having a force that can kick down my door and do whatever, but I'm scared, so I have no choice. And that's extremely an imperative thing. That's one thing. I'm a huge proponent of responsible firearms ownership. Again, we have a case in point right here. It doesn't do everything, though, because what happens if you are ambushed at close range? It's not always going to be, you see a threat from across the way, you successfully identify it, respond in time, there we go, you're ready to go. Sometimes you turn and you see something coming right at your face, and that's all the warning you have. And so I think it's really an important component to be time to go for your gun, for example. And the one biggest thing I believe that martial arts do for instilling sort of free society is intimate knowledge of peace and violence. I noticed that martial artists tend to not get in a lot of fights at all. That tends to be pretty true across the board. You find some drunkard in Boston, has a couple of drinks, someone looks at him wrong, and he just wants to swing. And because he just thinks, oh, I'm angry at this guy, I'm gonna hit him, and he'll go down and I'll feel good, and that's it. And when you start studying the human body in ways that you can quickly and efficiently destroy it, then you start having a different perception of violence. It's not just so much, oh, he hit me, I'm going to hit him too. It's not so much of a easy thing. Now it's all of a sudden, it's serious. This is life and death. I know what the possible consequences of my actions are. Also, you start training with a lot of people, you start to not be so confident if you're a big tough guy. You start seeing people, small, skinny, whatever, short, old, who can take you out because you're training with them, and then all of a sudden, when you're looking out across an audience of people, right? Any one of the people here could be a human weapon, and I would have no clue. And that just makes you a lot less likely to start a fight, because one wrong move and you could go down. There's a huge risk involved right now. So it makes you peaceful because one thing, you realize anyone could be part of this. And it also makes you peaceful because you understand a little bit more about how violence works, and you understand more about how it needs to be avoided. And because of that, one of the big benefits of martial arts I've noticed is martial artists tend to be very good at diffusing potential violent situations, identifying them early on and taking steps to make sure they don't happen. Sometimes a crazy guy just sort of runs at you and says, yo, you're making out with my girlfriend, oh, I'm gonna kick your ass, and then, you know, he's bigger than you, and even if you win, there's still someone gets seriously hurt, and it's an awful affair, and what you really, really want to do is just defuse the situation. And sometimes having that training, that really helps you, and that confidence can really help you look at that situation and just be, okay, I don't want any trouble. Just be peaceful about taking it down, but not weak, because people can smell fear, all right? A violent aggressor is usually going after someone who's weak to hurt them. And if you are peaceful, you show that you're not wanting to hurt anyone, but you also show you're not weak either. If you don't show fear or weakness, that's the best way to dissolve a potential violent situation. And martial arts really do a lot for that kind of training. Now, next up, how can martial arts be used to resist the state now? One thing, it's the ultimate concealed carry, right? You don't need to invest in a lot of training and equipment, et cetera, to have for example, concealed firearm or, legal structures, right? New Hampshire, really easy. Open carry, no permit. Shall issue concealed carry permit. That's pretty good. Where I'm from in Arizona, it's a permitless concealed carry state, so it's even better. What happens if you live in Chicago? What do you do there to protect yourself?
Move to New Hampshire.
Listen to this guy. He preaches from experience. You can't. What happens? You have to travel someplace like New York or Chicago. How do you protect yourself then? Or even worse, Europe. We'll spend a lot of time in Europe, in England, where there's knife crime out the ass, right? They sell knife-resistant shirts, and they sell them in children's sizes. It's a pretty grim thing over there, and the hoodlums over there are very bold because the legal structure is not very charitable to self-defense, and that's a shame. But if you want to be able to protect yourself, you can't always carry your firearm with you everywhere. Sometimes the state is against you, but so far they haven't been able to do anything against martial arts because what can they do? I mean, maybe they can stop a school or something like that, but if you find a way to study that this works and that doesn't and things like that, how are they going to hack into your brain, find out you know something, and just say, no, you can't know that, you're going to go into jail? They can't. Now, also, invisible army. Now, a lot of people stockpile weapons or make sure they're armed. I don't like the term stockpile weapons, but a lot of people ensure they're armed so as a sort of hedge against the state to make sure there's no violence. Because if there's a disarmed populace, the state is much more willing to go and start to use violence to coerce its citizens into whatever kind of obedience. Now, if the populace is armed to the teeth, has more net guns than the government, then they tend to not push their luck so much. Now, sometimes they can take a lot of inroads towards disarming the populace, but it's really hard to stop that in terms of martial arts training. And even though it's not quite the same, can you imagine the sort of resistance type, again, occupation type scenario like Iraq or Afghanistan, where every single person on the road could not only be your enemy, but could just, even if you stop and frisk them for bombs and weapons and stuff, they could still just take you out without any of that. That's a nightmare for a state, for an army, to try to control an area where everyone, just by existing, could be a potential threat. So that can be anything I can do to scare the state. That's pretty good for me. And now the final thing, cop blocking. Right? Who's ever done the activity known as cop blocking? Oh, yeah, a couple a brave few, right? Or just a few who just have not dedicated the resources to other good endeavors. Now, if you're in a confrontation with the police, for example, they tend to operate out of fear and bullying, right? Well, let me see, right? A lot of the stuff they do is not completely in their legal rights. They're trying to intimidate you into obedience that they aren't even legally obligated to do. So, for example, trying to detain you without a warrant or a cause or anything like that, and they use physical intimidation, come up to you with your equipment there and your guns, and let me see your identification, and learning to deal with that kind of intimidation, be strong, really helps you become a more peaceful, effective activist, because otherwise you could either be coerced into backing down when you shouldn't, or some people have like a fight or flight mentality that just fight or flight trigger that just sets off a violent encounter. And you do not want a violent encounter with the police. Don't think you're going to win that. But if you train yourself all the time to project yourself, to be peaceful, and to be strong, that can really help out those kinds of activism efforts. So you become a better activist, but being a martial artist could really be a big boon on that. Now, I'm going to leave some time for some questions throughout the week. I'm going to run around offering unsolicited self-defense advice. Just go up to you and say, hey, you see that? Here's why you use that to defend yourself. You're welcome, and move on. So expect that. Now, just remember, a free people isn't weak. A free people is strong. So, get strong. Thank you. Questions? Yes, sir.
In a hypothetical situation,
Hypothetically.
in a hypothetical situation, how do you fuse a large, muscular man who is pissed off that you kissed his girlfriend? And very, very drunk.
True story, that's what happened. A couple months ago, Rob and I, we just finished recording an episode of the Rebel Love Show with Rich Paul. So the two of us and Rich Paul out on the balcony. The neighbor, basically gotten romantically involved with the neighbor in a mild way. Her boyfriend, again, she lied about, is inconsequential. Got angry, big, like, what was he, like 6'2"?
He's like 6'3".
About 6'2", like 250 pounds, army guy, drunk off his ass, really aggressive, just came at him. And between the three of us, managed to non-violently resolve the situation. And
I didn't back down.
yeah, one thing, didn't back down. That's a big one, because as soon as you start, it's like a predatory instinct with, we humans have forward-facing eyes, we're predators, and there's a certain predatory instinct with when someone's showing weakness or trying to run away, to run after and kind of go for that. But when you're in that wasted, drunk, roided up, totally instinctual frame of mind, and then you see someone you're aggressing against start to back down, the instant result, the instinct is to just start aggressing more and more. And so, not backing down, remaining calm, because that does one thing, you're not going to be aggressive. It makes this guy, I can back out of this fight and I'm not going to get hit. And it also means, this guy's not scared of me. So maybe I don't want to hit him to begin with, because what if he has something I don't know about? What if he's got a knife behind his back or something I don't know? And so that's how you diffuse a situation like that. And it did end up getting diffused in a very peaceful manner. No thanks to this guy, but hey, he's not a professional. All right, other question. More questions. This is not a topic a lot of people know a whole lot about, so if you have anything to know, any question whatsoever about, was it fun, is it hard, what's the highest you can kick, does that even matter? I heard people talking smack about this or that, whatever you want to do, yeah. Nice shirt, by the way.
That's voluntary, it's the comic book. Check it out. You were saying that you do Taekwondo, is it? Is that the martial art that you recommend for the loving people that just want to protect themselves?
Yes, I will, but let me qualify that. I would recommend martial arts, all right? Just do it. Whatever you can do. The reason I did Taekwondo is because it was the American Taekwondo Association is, I think, the world's largest martial art organization, and the network around is just so incredible that you can just pick up your training. And I was a vagabond. I couldn't stay in one place a long time. Started in New Mexico, went further in Arizona, and then I was actually working for a school out there. And then I moved to New Hampshire, right? I drove up on a Saturday. Monday, I walked into another ATA school and got a job. So that kind of power, that's why I chose Taekwondo. Also, it's interesting to notice it's the official martial art of the South Korean military. That's what they developed it in the 50s exactly for that purpose. So it has those that sort of military structure and et cetera, et cetera. It's not so much the base martial art as it is how it's taught, and more importantly than even how it's taught, it's just how you apply it, right? So you want to practice, obviously, in a very real kind of way, practice to your maximum. Always try to throw in like real situations here or there. Hopefully if you have like a big buff Mexican roommate tries to ambush you in the hallway all the time, that really worked for me. We used to throw down on the kitchen floor all the time until I knocked him out on his birthday, and that wasn't cool. But yeah, Krav Maga, I've heard a lot of really good stuff about that from the training I've seen. It's, it's one of the most quickest, one of the quickest tickets to where you're going. Now, Taekwondo is not just a fighting system, it's an art and a sport as well. So there's a lot of extra stuff you're getting in there that you might not necessarily find it completely imperative to personal defense. Like for example, you see someone walking around with like a machete and a semi-automatic rifle. They're probably not relying on those for personal defense on a day-to-day basis. It's just kind of extra good fun stuff to have around, right? Just in case. So, again, heard good things about Krav Maga. However, whatever you do, just do it and cross-train. I mean, Taekwondo is my main thing, but I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I've done a lot of Wing Chun Kung Fu, and I've done some Tai Chi, Xingyi, Chuan, other things like that. And they're all a good time, they all interconnect, but focus on one thing if you can. Next. Right there.
I've noticed in the last 5 years or so that firearm training has kind of moved away from stationary target shooting and moved towards dynamic movement, dynamic environments, those sort of things. And in that way, it seems like firearm training has gone towards a more martial arts, like into a more martial arts realm versus just target shooting. I was wondering, I know this isn't your area of expertise, but I was wondering if you've noticed that and if you wanted to comment on it.
Definitely, because it's moving to a more practical direction. It's not so much, do I know how to shoot? Can I line up and take out the redcoats? It's not quite so much that anymore as it is, I'm on the street, someone jumps me, and what do I do about that? And I would really recommend anyone who does anything with firearms, learn how to use it during bad situations. Learn how to use it at arm's distance, right? And why don't you try this? Get like a paintball gun or an airsoft gun, if you don't mind a little bit of pain, right? And train with the buddy from arm's distance, right? Put your hand on his shoulder right there. Have him come at you or try whatever and see if you can get off a shot, right? It might be a little bit hard, and then you might know. That's how you identify gaps in your training, right? Other question? Well, I'm walking around all week long. You know where to find me. I'll randomly come up to you and tell you how you can destroy someone with a random object in your hands. And that's how it rolls. Yes, you have another question?
Yeah. So, sorry about that. Didn't realize that we saw that. So, I have a bit of a sort of, I guess, more abstract philosophical thing. Do you think there's any sort of credence to the idea that some people who want to have a safer society through the ability for us to be stronger and have the ability to defend ourselves, do you think that basing a society more on that is basing a society on the fear of reprisal instead of sort of just wanting to get along? Do you see, because some people have that kind of concern basing it around firearms or martial arts or whatever, that instead of sort of just the innateness of or badness of violence, that instead you're just basing it around, well, I don't want to fight this guy, he'll kick the shit out of me, kind of thing. So I don't know if you see where I'm going with that, but just something that came to mind.
Yeah, I absolutely do. And that's one reason I'm a big proponent of martial arts is because it tends to, as I said before, instill an understanding about violence that it's not just some abstract concept, or it tends to really get people to understand why you want to be peaceful, right? And the other thing is, it's important to, I believe, we're in the world, right? Someone didn't invent violence one day. It's kind of an animal instinct. The fact that we're peaceful now, I don't think is an instinctual, natural thing. I think it's an I think peace is, to a certain degree, unnatural, which is kind of weird to say it like that, but it's something that humans consciously started striving for to create a better world, is to get away from our animal instincts of just using violence, using whatever tool we can to get what we want. Also, there's a lot of people open carrying around here in Porcfest. Does anyone feel frightened or intimidated? Raise your hand, someone. You know why? Because you're not thinking about violence when you see this. It's just, oh, that guy's got a gun. Oh, that's cool. What kind is it? Oh, well, you know, wow, plus 3 guns. Wow. That's it. It takes the violence out of the countermeasure. It's not so much, he has a gun, he must be trying to kill someone. It's, he has a gun just because why not? And he's just, as long as he doesn't hurt anyone, I don't care. And that kind of philosophy, I think, provides a very peaceful society. Like, you know, group sports and things like that were also developed, or also came about to sort of get that, especially like fighting sports, to sort of get that out. And so someone's, you know, a boxer, no one thinks he's a dangerous, evil person who just wants to learn how to hit and destroy. It's like, no, he just likes to box. And it just completely takes the violence out of it completely. The violence out of the violence. It's kind of a weird way that society works, but the big thing is we do live in an imperfect world. We do live in a world where we can strive for utopia, but we can't expect it ever. We can't act like it exists. We can do our best to get there. And if we get there someday and we solve everything and the world becomes perfect, everyone's immortal, happy, and never hurts anyone ever again, great. In the meantime, we got to be prepared for the opposite. Last question, are we good? Yes.
So, like, lots of kids do Taekwondo.
Oh yeah.
And I guess my question would be, how much do they stick with it and go through it, continue? And if you do it as an old person, and maybe you do a little bit and you don't have a lot of time for training, how much sticks with you? I know a lot of it's going to be muscle memory, but also part of it is going to be a knowledge base. So can you talk about a little bit of the split there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of different things there. For one thing, when you're a kid, you're a sponge. You just soak up everything, all kinds of knowledge, all kinds of everything. And so things like that tend to stick with you a really long time. For example, in training, I can pick out people, especially in Taekwondo, who have started as children and people who haven't, because just the way their body is matured, even if they're the exact same age. If you're 45, say, you're 45 years old, your kicking ability, for example, I can tell how long you've been doing it. Not just how many years, but from what age you started, because there's a certain way if you start training yourself before your body's fully developed, that tends to be like a permanent effect. And so that's always, I can always tell with that. And how long does it stick with you? Well, how long does anything stick with you? I mean, there's a certain use it or lose it kind of thing, but it's not like it's something that's really easy to lose unless you just completely abandoned it. And then it's still in there somewhere. It's all reflexive, right? I mean, there's things I don't train in all the time. There's other martial arts I haven't done. Like way back in the day, I did some ninjutsu, some of the ninja art, right? And so some of that's still in here. Like the way I sneak around and stuff, and the way I hide next to a wall, all those kinds of things. The rear assassination techniques, they're all still there, and I haven't done it in like 13, 14 years, right? And so, yeah, they do stick with you. And I usually teach ages 4 through 64, so I have people in that entire range. And there's a lot, just like with learning languages, there's something with more developed brains find it harder to stick, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work at all. And it really, I've done, one of my mid-late 60s students, we did a lot of flexibility training, because that's the one thing, oh my gosh, does that ever go? It's going for me already. It becomes a lot harder when you get older. But it doesn't mean that's impossible. I still got it where he kicked me in the head one time. I'm like, you're about my height, you get me in the head there, that's pretty good. You know, I guess all that training actually paid off. Are we done? All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions for me? You know where to find me. I mean, you don't, but I'll be everywhere.